the hoisting him up. I'm just swimming and I'm looking for the next person. And finally, wait a minute, I'm not going to catch up to this next person or the next boat.
Yeah.
So they come back in, hoist me up about halfway, do short haul, drop me right back on top of the next guy, which was easy, spun around. Then I went back up with them.
Welcome to the Calm in the Chaos podcast, where we discuss untold heroic experiences and dive into the mindset of the Navy's elite rescue swimmers. Hosted by former U.S. Navy Aviation rescue swimmer, Mount Everest solo summiteer, and best-selling author Brian Dickinson.
Hey everyone, it's Brian Dickinson. If you're enjoying these stories, please take a second to like, subscribe, and share the podcast. It helps more people find these conversations, and it keeps the mission alive. And if you want early access to new episodes and to support what we're building, consider becoming a Spotify paid subscriber. Your support means everything. Now let's jump in so others may live. Dave Allen, 24 years of service, retired senior chief. Just happy to have you on. We've been doing a little back and forth trying to get you on, and I'm just excited that it finally worked out, and excited to have this conversation. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Cool, man. So we overlapped in our service, but never served together. Like I went through SAR in 93, and I know you went back in 94, but you were already in doing some interesting things. But let's start at the beginning. Where'd you grow up?
Mobile, Alabama.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you're right next to Ecola, which is where you're at now.
Yeah.
So how did that influence your wanting to go in the military? You see a lot of helos flying over?
No, my stint in the military started as a college failure.
Nice.
I went to school for 2.5 years, and it just wasn't doing well because I wasn't doing really anything. I don't think I wanted to be there at the time.
Mm-hmm. In Mobile?
Yeah, in Mobile. I went to University of South Alabama. And then my dad was like, let's go to lunch one day. And I was like, all right, sure. Yeah, we didn't go to lunch. We went down to the recruiter's office.
Sly dad.
So I'm like, all right, a little angry. And they're like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I like to mess with electronics. I'd like to be electrician's mate, aviation wise. No, we don't have that. I'm like, all right, so, well, I'll just sign up anyway. Sure, okay, it's going that route. So in MEPS is where there was a chief in the detailing office. Like, why don't you have a rate yet? It's like, because they didn't have it. Well, hey, why don't you do this aircrew? You can get AE out of aircrew. I was like, okay, sure. So that's how I got into the aircrew pipeline.
Dude, you just threaded the needle there.
Right, out of luck. That's how I got into the Navy.
Okay, but you didn't go SAR right away. So let's
no. So when I started reading on it, I was like, oh, P3, they have observers, they have flight engineers and all that. I'm like, that looks cool, and I get to do, fly all over the place. Well, at the time, getting through A school in Memphis, it's like, we don't have anything for you for fixed wing because you have seasonal allergic rhinitis, basically sinus issues. So you can't fly in, fixed wing aircraft.
Okay, at altitude.
Yeah, at altitude. You're going to helos and 46s at HC3 in San Diego. I was like, sure.
Nice.
First for me.
Nice. We shared the same hangars.
Oh yeah.
Well, cool, man. How was that? How were 46s?
So I really enjoyed flying in the 46. Everybody's like, oh, it's old, it falls apart, it falls out of the sky. Yeah, we've had friends die, in that aircraft. Or because of an issue with the aircraft, or mainly maintenance issues. But I really enjoyed it because it was easy to work on. Everything's open. You could do basically anything. You weren't wind limited, which some of the times was the not so good thing in my mind. When you're chasing the Lincoln in North Pacific during a typhoon. Mm-hmm. You want to just batten down the hatches, but actually the best thing was to just do you flying because everybody was sick. So, but yeah, it's a great bird. I enjoyed it.
During your time, like what was your normal day flying in 46s? Because you were dry at that point.
So if I wasn't working in one of the jet shops, you you work in the flight line as a PC, and then you go fly as a third wheel. Because most of the flights for training were SAR oriented in Guam because you were it. We would go fly for a couple hours. You'd fly, hit the mountains, do landings, and they'd go do SAR patterns, and we'd just be sitting there going, okay, what can I do besides learning that part of it, being the crew chief. But it's like, this isn't working for me. And one of my other buddies was like, hey, I'm going back to SAR school. Well, I'm not getting to fly. I'm like, well, that sounds like a great idea. So they sent us both back to SAR school.
Nice. Well, while you were dry, did you get any interesting like rescues or anything from a hoist perspective?
No, we just did mainly some night searches, the old one lens NVD, because only the SAR det had NVGs. Yeah. Other than that, nothing as a dry crewman. It was very, very, very boring.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you ever get to do jumps?
As a dry guy?
Yeah.
No.
You were just hoisting?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious. Like that would have probably like put you over the top. Like, yeah, I want to go do that.
But I did, the guys, when there was like maybe 4 or 5 dry guys in the whole squad. You'd go to the pool with them for SAR because you were the dummy. You were going to get drugged around the pool, and you were going to do all this stuff because, you needed to learn. And then when they found out, that I want to go back to SAR school, of course, they're putting me in the pool, trying to do something for like a workout before I got there.
Were they teaching you the techniques and everything?
Trying to, but you're doing breaks and holes in the deep end of a pool and you've never done them before. It's like, wait a minute, what are you doing? Oh, here's how you do it. I'm like, yeah. So
yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so you had the opportunity to go back to Pensacola.
Yeah.
So let's go through that because you already went through air crew, so you basically went straight. Had you already done SEER at this point too?
Yeah, because so you're doing SEER at the RAG at HC3. They would send you to have that week of where you go over to the SEER school and then
Warner Springs.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, how was that?
I liked it, except to the point where you're getting smacked around. It was cool, a little evading and whatnot, and getting to see, push your limits of, when you're out of your comfort zone. But yeah, during the last part of it, when you have to give yourself up, you go do what you need to do at the camp. At that part, I was like, yeah, I'm getting smacked around too much as a little guy. Because I joined the Navy. I was like, I'm 135 pounds wet, right? 6 foot tall. So it's like, you get pointed out a lot, and being the junior guy, you get pointed out a lot at SEER school. It was interesting.
How do you think you came out of SEER different than you went in?
Knowing that you can do things that are out, like I said, outside your comfort zone, like push to a limit. And that's what I think they're trying to teach you, is know your limit where you can't go past. I probably went too far where, because I'm stubborn, where the senior guy took the waterboard for me because I was going to the waterboard because I was not being the cooperative war criminal, so to speak.
Yeah, you're supposed to not snap. You snap.
Yeah. So, and then the interrogation stuff. I actually Doug Hegzall is the one that debriefed me for mine, and I know he did that a lot for a lot of those guys that went through SEER school out in San Diego. And the biggest takeaway was you can't use the same complaint or same technique every time. You gotta keep them on their toes.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. No, you definitely don't. I don't think anyone ever is the same person that they went in, because it teaches so many things that we can apply just in our lives. It's wild. Like even the way, like the interrogation stuff and our response to that. I don't think a lot of us may not even pin it back to that, but just, I don't know, some of our interactions, you can just be pretty reserved as far as like,
Right.
To trust and get that, Like, why are you asking? I don't know. I think there's a lot of personality as well, but just a lot of the different trainings that we do just kind of hones who we are.
Yeah, enough.
Want to show your support for Calming the Chaos and the stories of our nation's elite rescue swimmers? Check out our exclusive merch line shirts, hats, and stickers designed for those who live with courage and purpose. Military and first responders get 10% off each order. Just use the code SAR Rescue 10, SARRESCUE, the number 10, SAR Rescue 10, at checkout. Grab yours today on Amazon or briandickinson.net/store and wear your support proudly so others may live. So, okay, so you went to Pensacola and straight in the pool, or did you have some workups, or did you just?
No, actually, yeah, I classed up pretty much immediately. Let's see. Yeah, classed up. As I was a coffee drinker, so I'm like, oh yeah, I can just drink coffee and go work it. Yeah, no, that didn't work out for me. Out of shape. Did not realize how much in shape you should have already been getting there.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of struggled a bit.
It struggled with the running or like across the board? Like...
The running mainly, and then in the pool with fins, because they give you the rockets and they're so stiff.
Well, for people our size too, and that's like a quarter of your body weight.
Right. So, sorry. Yeah, that was probably the biggest struggle. I did everything in the times that I needed to do, but it was, kind of borderline. And then I think at that time they were looking to get rid of the weak people. You know what I mean? And I was one. I'm not gonna lie. I was probably one of the weaker people. Mm-hmm. So I could tell there's little things that they were making it a little bit harder for me. Mm-hmm. At one point, I just said, wait, training time out. What do you want me to do? You're, this is happening, and I'm trying to get away from this situation. What am I doing wrong? Get out of the pool. No questions. No, hey, whatever. So I got out of the pool. They sent me to a DRB, or academic review board, not a disciplinary review board. And I'm like, I want to be here. I really do. So they put me back at the start of a new class.
Oh, wow.
Which was a good thing because I was on hold for 2 weeks. So I was working out with the senior team, getting stronger. Every day I do pool work during lunch. Well, no teams were in the pool. And so by the time that my next team came along, which was about, I don't know, 3 full weeks later, I was ready to rock and roll. So, and then it was easy after that. I think, it definitely was eye opener, of when I went back to Guam and there were people like, oh, how was it? I'm like, you need to be in shape before you go. You know what I mean? There's no ifs, ands, but it just makes it easier for you to do things if you're in shape.
Yeah. That's across the board, right?
Yeah.
Whatever you're doing in life. Like those are things within your control. Like there's so much outside of your control. It's like, get in shape. Like I see that I do high altitude mountaineering.
Mm-hmm.
Like those things are within your control. You better be in the best shape of your life before you hit some of these bigger peaks, because you put yourself and others at risk. So that's from a mental standpoint, though, that can be tough because you're there, you have a spotlight on you because you got orders to go and then you're heading back. Mm-hmm. The last thing you want to do is, not make it and come back and you're dry crewman. I wonder if all those factors played into the instructors, when you have a fleet returnee and, I don't know. Like, yeah, I know when we went through, because I was 93 or 94, it was different than it is now. There was definitely a bully mentality with a few of the instructors, and they would latch on to certain people and try to drive them out.
Yeah.
So it's different times. So I don't know. Like, what do you think, like, the main factors were?
It's just drive. Again, like you said, it's like I don't want to disappoint my command, and also, at the time, I wasn't thinking about it. It's like I'll be disappointing myself if I didn't do it, if I keep pushing, and I think that drive, knowing that my command, AC5 put me there, and wanted me to succeed. I didn't want to let them down. You don't want to fail your squadron.
Mm-hmm.
Or be embarrassed, because that's a part of your drive. You don't want to be embarrassed for something that you knew you could be doing or could have done, and you just didn't because you either quit or they drove you out.
Yeah. It's always interesting just to have these conversations. I should do like a compilation of the reasoning that people made it through. And there's usually a common thread. One is there is no plan B. A lot of the guys and girls came straight from high school, bad situations at home.
Yeah.
There was no going back, so they were going to do everything and die if they had to. And then there's the fleet returnees. A lot of times it is that the embarrassment, or it's a unique drive, whatever it is. There's probably a common thread that goes through both, but you created that. There was no plan B.
Yeah.
You were going to do it. So you just have that, not necessarily a fixed mindset, but it's kind of somewhere in between. You're fixed, you're going to make it. No other option.
Yeah.
Okay, so you made it through. Did you do jumps out of SAR school?
Yeah, you do what you did, like one jump and then one like hoist and you go back down. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, a teabag. Was it on the H3 behind me?
Yep.
Nice.
Yep. I actually got lots of flight time in H3 because when you go back, what they used to do, you had to fly to get your pay every month. So when I went back to SAR school as an instructor, it's right down the street. So, and I knew the guys that were down there anyway. So we're like, yeah, we're flying today. We're going to go here. I'm like, okay, I'll go.
Hey, if you love high stakes action, military intrigue, and stories that keep you turning pages late into the night, you won't want to miss my new thriller, Bloodline of Redemption. From a rogue Russian submarine on a covert nuclear mission to the unforgiving peaks of the world's deadliest mountains, it's a nonstop ride of suspense and survival. Order your copy now on Amazon or wherever books are sold and dive into the mission. Do you not need to fly for flight pay anymore?
No, you do not.
Oh, wow.
They're called gates. No, and it's all off of flight time. And then what you're doing, you still have to, your orders still say duties involve flying, either with flying or without flying.
Wow.
So it's all about on a flight time and actual like duties involving flying time.
Dang. I was supposed to get out in 98, snap my knee on a Navy soccer team, had to extend a year, for surgery and everything before I got out in 99 officially. I wasn't flying during that time. Can I get back pay for that?
I'm not sure.
I'm joking.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm not, but I'm not sure. Who knows?
I should put it as a request.
Yeah, special programs. You're like, yeah, you're done. Write you off. But I don't know.
Yep. Okay, so you went back to Guam.
Yep.
How do you fly back to Guam? What does that look like?
So you fly back to Guam, you go out of San Diego, or I went out of LA. You fly to Hawaii and then Hawaii to Guam.
Like commercial or military?
Yeah, commercial. Yeah.
First class?
Yeah. You should know better than that. I got lucky to be just out of the baggage compartment.
Right.
The way the Navy pays for things.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, so at this point, it takes a while to even get, fitted and get your wetsuits and all your gear. So
I didn't get any of that when I left SAR school.
Yeah. You normally don't.
Because I actually had to leave. I didn't even graduate. So I graduated, but I did not graduate with the graduating class because I had to go. You're like, yeah, here's your ticket. Now get out of here.
Nice. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay. So you flew back to Guam, then you were flying at that point, but basically dry crew because you didn't have your gear for.
No. So what they did, you have through attrition, the fleet has attrition. People get out of the Navy, they leave their stuff. Okay. So I actually got mask, fin, and snorkel. And then if you remember the old 2-piece wetsuit shorty with the metal zipper. Yeah, that's what they gave me. I'm in Guam, it's no big deal. You don't need anything more than that, right? No.
Yeah, you don't even need that, but
but all my stuff was on order, Yeah, I did not get it until I got back from my first deployment.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you had an interesting rescue during that time.
Yeah.
Let's hear about that.
So, like I said, I got back in July, August from SAR school. We did workups for detachment, and we left the day after Christmas. On detachment, we were supposed to go to Australia. You know, I had to go on. We get all these good things, but then we went off. We decided, the captain did, went off of Somalia to reload the Bellawood with vert rep, because they were going in and getting all of the U.S. consulate people out of Mogadishu at that time. So we didn't end up going to Australia. So anyway, from there we went straight over to the Persian Gulf, or the Arabian Gulf, and do vert rep there, in and out of some ports. And then we were transiting the South Arabian Gulf, and I think we were doing a mail run, or the other aircraft was doing a mail run. We were just, flying around. Ship got a distress signal from a motor vessel out there. Let's see, the motor vessel Bisme had 12 crew on board. They were taking on waters, because when they were onloading these huge bags of onions on the deck, they broke off a sounding tube, and the sounding tube is what gets air down in the lower decks. Well, there was a weird storm during that period of time, so the water was coming in over the decks and going straight down into the bilge. It couldn't pump it out fast enough. So, there's all these transport ships, and in the Gulf, and you're looking around going, I don't see anything, other than ships, tossing and turning. And they're like, yeah, we have a blue tarp on the back. It's like, what? We're flying around looking for that proverbial needle in a haystack.
Yeah, no kidding.
And we found it.
Nice.
Sure luck. And this thing was listing really, I've got pictures I can send you if you ever want.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. This is daytime?
Yeah, daytime. It was listing really bad. They were driving it into the wind. So we're like, hey, let's try to lower me down to the deck. Well, the way the ship was pitching, and I really wasn't looking. I was expecting the crew chief to look. I guess we were all just jacked at the time, because holy cow, this is going on right now. Go out the door, and those old HVU 23s, you can't see anything because you're hanging all crazy. I'm trying to look around, and I'm looking down as we're coming over the back end of the boat, and I'm like, oh wow, there's cables from the deck, the main deck, all the way down to the lower deck. And I'm like, yeah, no, go back up. So we came back up.
Were you using hand signals, or did you have your radio?
No, yeah, we didn't have radios.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, go up. I'm pointing at the cables. So we come up, I get back on my ICS. I'm like, yeah, there's cables. We need to figure out something else. So they're like, hey, they want the guys to start abandoning ship. So they put out the big life raft, but the current and the way it was, and the pitching of the boat, the rope snapped and blew the huge raft just kind of floated away. So you're going to have to jump in one at a time. So they jumped in one, and we'd basically just go down the wire, because the seas were too rough to do jumps. It was probably about 15 to 20 foot, swells, big chop. And first guy I got to, I'm literally right out of SAR school. I'm like, turn around, looking at you. His eyes are huge, and the wave kind of pushed him right on top of me. So he's literally on top of me, holding me. Just like you learn in SAR school, flip him around and got him, calm down, and about that time, wave comes over the top of us, down my snorkel. I'm choking. I'm holding this guy out, and I'm like, this is madness, right? So I get my wits about me, because you kind of go crazy for a minute, going, there's a lot of stuff going on, right? And it just all comes back in and focus. It's like, you're here for a job, let's go. So at that point, I'm looking him over. He's got these huge, it's like this huge styrofoam brick covered in orange fabric as a life preserver, right? So it's hard as hell to get arms around him. So hoist comes in, I strap him in, in my mind, multis, right? I'm thinking pool. Literally in my brain, I'm still in the pool because I just graduated, right? So the guy goes up, and I'm looking for the back of the boat, and I just start swimming, right? Like in my mind now, I'm like, you're an idiot, dude. What are you doing? So the hoisting him up, I'm just swimming. And I'm looking for the next person. And finally, wait a minute, I'm not going to catch up to this next person or the next boat.
Yeah.
So they come back in, hoist me up about halfway, do short haul, drop me right back on top of the next guy, which was easy, spun around. Then I went back up with them that time. And around this time, our other aircraft that had been doing PAX mail run had gotten back, refueled, and got two swimmers in the back with their crew chief. So there's two swimmers in the other bird, and then it joins in and they start plucking some of them. So I'm two birds sitting there. By this time, the water temperature is around 70. It's about 70 out, so maybe with the wind, and I'm starting to shiver. Right. Once the adrenaline starts wearing off and then I'm starting to get cold, I'm like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. We got Shorty on. And we've got the blankets around the two survivors that we've got in the back right now. And I'm like, I need something to get in. So the only thing we had was those old mail bags. So I'm literally in the mail bag trying to keep the wind off of me.
Nice. Do you have a picture of that?
No, but I do have a picture of when I got back on board with a big those wool blankets around me as I'm so they started picking the other guys up, and then it's our turn to go back in, and I got two more guys out, and about this time I'm still shaking. We go back to fuel, drop those guys off. The other birds picking up had already dropped off. What about four guys? Yeah, I think it was about four guys. And then they had gone back out to start picking up the rest. This time I'm in the hangar. I cannot stop shaking, even with the blanket on me. And I'm like, someone else has got to go because I don't want to risk somebody else's life because I can't, stop physically, shaking. So the other younger guys are all down because, they can't handle the rough seas. So they all had that patch or whatever, Dramamine. So the OIC wouldn't let them fly. So when the other older crewman hops on board of our bird, they take off. And at that time, we didn't know that 1-3 was our bird. They took off. My buddy was pulling the captain out of the water. So the last survivor up and out. So literally they just flew back, dropped the other guys off, came in, and then, shut down. And there's Dangerous Jobs, the History Channel. It highlights our rescue. We have a bunch of all hands, Rotor Review, NHA, magazines that our rescue was in. We were in a couple of newspapers out there in the Gulf.
That's awesome. So how many did you pull up two yourself? Or?
No, I got four. I pulled up four of the 12, and the other crew got the other.
Yeah, that's awesome. Man, that's welcome to the fleet.
Yeah.
Out of SAR.
And then the rest of my career, we only went on, searches and then maybe a CASEVAC or a medevac. Other than that, no other rescues.
Yeah, but you had a big one out of the gates. All right. Well, okay. So now, how's the rest of that deployment?
It was good. So we got back literally. What was it? April, May timeframe. And it was, you go back into port, You go do some vert rep, and then you travel home. Being that it was a civilian ship, most of all the ships out of Guam are civilian ships at that time, supply ships. But
Yeah.
they put us in. So, excuse me, our OIC put us in for comms. The pack fleet admiral was like, no, we're putting them in for Navy Marine Corps medals. So the swimmers got Navy Marine Corps medals, and the pilots and the crew chiefs got comms, which was pretty cool. To when I'm like, I'm getting a comm from a rescue. That's kind of cool, and not knowing that you get back to on station and back in Agana on Guam, and it's like, hey, Admiral Zalatoper's coming to give you guys your awards. What? Oh yeah, this is a big deal. So it was pretty neat.
How was it wearing that around? Were people?
Yeah, so at the time, you got to figure it is 94, 95. There's a few people I had ever seen with a Navy Marine Corps medal. And because I didn't know anything about it. I had no idea. Because most everybody I knew, NAMs and comms from rescues, and, you get your NHA little shingle. But, we ended up, it was, like I said, how much of a big deal was the DET or the squadron got, air crew of the year embarked because of that particular rescue. But it was, it's different because people are like, what is that? And I'm like, I had to look it up too. Sorry. Here it is.
That's awesome because you're not doing it for that reason, and that's that you got awarded for it. I know Larry Grossman with the Bonefish was kind of the same thing. He's like this young crewman, just had one of the most intense rescues, in the history of all rescues, and but so many people would question, like, hey, why are you wearing that? You got to like tell your story over and over.
Yeah. It's different, and it is. You tell your story. It wasn't me getting it, it was our squadron. It was attachment because we did it as a team.
Yep.
I was maintainer, but all the other, the maintainers and the non-flyers, they had a part in it too. You know what I mean? That if that bird couldn't have flown, we wouldn't have been able to save those people.
Yeah.
Expedition.
Might not be alive right now otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's totally a team effort, and it's good that you acknowledge that. Okay, so you did you get back, and then did you transition to 60s at that point?
No, so I got back in. It's kind of funny because I got there in 93, left in 95, and went back to SAR school as an instructor. So some of those guys were still there, had been my instructors when I was there as a student.
Wow.
The year and a half early. And some of them were guys that I had flown with in Guam. So it was kind of cool.
So how was that? How was being an instructor?
It was awesome because as the smallest guy, literally 135 pounds on my fin has got 135 pounds of SAR whoop ass. Because me and John Harding were the smallest guys probably in the whole place. Skinny and tall, but as a couple of guys that I work with now, they'll tell you, like, I was skinny and small too, but to see this little guy in front of us working out, and blowing everybody away, not patting myself on the back, because as an instructor, you have to be as physically fit as you possibly can. And then you always push, to be able to do more, because you don't want to see the students, you don't want to show the students anything, other than top performance. Right. Yeah. So it was like, guys were telling me, like, I'm glad I see you doing this because it gave me the motivation to show me that I can do it. I'm like, well, if that helps you get through SAR school, I'm happy for you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because, as more females come in, and, that's always the thing, like, they're not capable of doing it. Well, they're overly capable. The water is the equalizer. So you can see these, big dudes that don't make it through.
Yep.
They're sinkers, or they just don't have the grit or whatever else. You cannot judge a book when it comes to, our job.
Yeah.
That's awesome. It's good that you could be an example of that and to help encourage others to get through. So, were you an instructor for what, 2, 3 years?
No, yeah, 4 years actually. I
4 years.
got, yeah, we had at that time frame had like a lack of people coming in as instructors. So I got um, held for another 6 months, passed, and then we got a new senior chief, and he's like, "So what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, I want to get orders back to San Diego. I want to go to HC-11. How about this, man? How about you cross rate? We'll give you some money, because I did the SCORE program. Be an AW, and I'll get you anywhere you want." So at that time, and this was a couple of months after the fact that I didn't get the orders to HC-11. I was dating somebody here in Florida and in Pensacola. So I'm like, "Well, can you get me here? Can you get me stationed in Jacksonville?" "Yep." And I'm like, "All right, sure." So I went to AWA school as a student in 2000 before, that whole mass, you have to be an AW.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned, I came out of AW school as an AW2, where I'm learning buoys and all the other, gram stuff.
Mm-hmm. Still grams.
Yeah, like P3 stuff. I get to HS10 out in San Diego because for some reason, I think they just had that opening. I don't know if HS1 was still in business or what. I don't know. But I went through HS10 pretty quick because being a fleet returnee, you don't have to play all the games. I'm doing 2 sims a day, cramming all the things, and then got orders to HS15 and a Jax.
Nice. How was that?
It was good. Jax, I like Jax. It's wide open, but cross going from, AWs or, jerks and whatnot, and then getting into the community, and like, I don't see it. You know what I mean? It's just, I think it was a, HC and HS or HSL kind of mentality that, AWs or whatever. But, and, I saw it as maintainers, when not being a maintainer anymore, it was different because I enjoyed working on the aircraft. You saw a little bit of the animosity between maintenance control and ops. But once they found out that I was prior AE, and wrench turner, it was easier to communicate with maintenance. So especially, you end up making first class, you become the LPO. It's easier to do that cross the hangar talk with those guys, and having a background in maintenance helped out a lot, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would imagine. Almost, I don't know, was there any ego involved? Like when you knew what you were talking about? And
no, it's not from my aspect, you know what I mean? Because I was just trying to let them know is like we're not stupid over here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we work in ops, we're not out on the flight line all the time, but we do know what you're talking about when you tell us these things.
Yeah.
And then a lot of our guys, if they were junior crewmen, are sending them to the line check, especially on the boat, on the carrier. They need bodies in the line check to help out. Plus, these guys are learning the aircraft better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They learn, okay, oh, this is what that is. Oh, this is what I need to look at. So help them. I think it helps like crewmen when it comes to pre-flight to be partial, what we call them, partial plane captain qualified. They can't be.
Agreed. Well, and when you're doing like, overlands or long distance stuff, there's value in that because you are expected to, spin up, shut down, all that stuff. I know some of, like when I was HS2 and from 93 to 99, a lot of the guys did go that route, but it's when they were getting their other wings. I wish they would have forced that more. I think for me, I don't know, all volunteers stepped forward. I think everyone stepped backwards, and I was standing there when they needed FCF folks. I became that dude, just.
But yeah, so I think we all were that FCF dude. But coming from HC world, every crew chief was an FCF crewman.
Mhm.
You know, and then you get to HS World, you have a couple of guys that know how to run the box. And then you had, what were they called? The TFOs, not TFOs, but the guy. So there is a maintainer that would fly. They'd get qualified and fly in the back and run the gear.
Yep.
Yeah, there's always like one or two in the squadron, you know, and they get paid, you know, they rotate their pays depending on who flew. But you still have to have crewmen that can run the box. So we didn't have FCF crewmen, or we had FCF crewmen in Iraq. You can't have the maintainers fly when you're in Iraq. You know what I mean? You just can't. That's just not a smart thing to do.
Yeah. Okay, so you're at 15. How many deployments did you do with 15?
Did two deployments. First one was on the GW, the first GW, out of Norfolk. We went to a bunch of different places, and then went to the Gulf, and that's when they just, you know, the big bomb campaign in 2001, 2002 timeframe off the carriers. Then second deployment was on the JFK. We did the JFK's last deployment, 67. And we did a det into Basra. So we got det off the Bellawood and the Denver into Basra. Then, as we were coming back out, they were setting up a air ambulance thing in Kuwait, then Arab. So and that's when like Jay, those guys had deaded in there, and they were doing whatever the rings between. They'd fly into Basra to get the Kazbak or medevacs, and then they'd fly them into Arab or wherever. And that's when that incident occurred.
Yeah, when they crashed, like, you were out on the ship at that time?
Yeah.
How, like, what was that like hearing about that?
Initially, you're like, you hear any aircraft go down, and you're just like, oh crap, you know. And then you hear, oh, it's one of ours. It's like, oh, and you don't hear anything. You know what I mean? You just don't know. You know, you find an information out, and you're like, okay, we're waiting. And you find out, yeah, they balled it up, tail rotor failure, or I think it's a IGB gearbox failure. And then, but everybody walked out, and I'm like, holy cow, because if they were transferred, they're coming back to the ship. So they had max, people in the back. Yeah, it's nuts. And then you're holding your breath. Yeah. And you find out everybody's all right. There's some injuries and whatnot. And you're like, okay, good. Excuse me. Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. Have you listened to the Jay's pod?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually listened to it yesterday.
Nice.
And he tells more in depth of actually what happened. We just know it lost tail rotor authority, it was spinning and hit the ground and rolled over on its side, and everything fell out of the door. You didn't hear how many times it actually bounced, and in your mind, you don't think it, but as you see it on TV or you've seen an actual incident happen, you're like, yeah, that thing, it had to have bounced a couple of times and rolled over. It's just, wow. And then those guys came back, and none of them, bunch of them didn't want to fly.
Yeah. Can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an experience that'll haunt you. So yeah, I know Jay's really struggled with that. So if you have his number, or if you need it, just definitely reach out.
Yeah, I'll message him periodically.
Good. I did. I talked to, I have like my group, Veterans Day, once a year, whatever, we'll reach out. So all the HS2 guys, but a lot of us went through training with him and good friends, and same type of thing. It's like, got to be there for each other, because isolation is the enemy.
Yeah. Kristen Oliger puts out a thing every year on the anniversary, and emails them or messages them every year.
Nice. Survival Day.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. So you get back from 15, where'd you go from there?
WTU in Jacksonville. It was when it's still the HS.
I got a question. WTF is WTU.
It's WTU.
Weapons training.
Yeah. A weapons training unit. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Tell us about that.
So got there first class and learning from probably people, you knew, Brantley Lowe, but I was at 2 before he came back over to the East Coast. Worked with those guys, learning how to do big squadron training and inspections when it came to, the type wing, inspections for aircrew, and running, going out to the field, being the bad guys for the squadrons to train them up, videotaping and then going and debriefing the squadron, like after harps, for when the readiness comes up for their deployments.
So yeah, bring us through that. That's interesting. So you're just an observer. Are you training at that point and then having to observe, or vice versa?
So what you do is you go back through, and we taught like the CSAR level 2 course and the ASW level 2 course for the junior crewmen, and you're teaching them everything from weapons to, small, ground tactics with the carries and landings. Now that they're getting that a lot sooner, you had to kind of train them at that point in time what their position was. But so it's like a crawl, walk, run with them. You go, okay, here's what we're looking for this harp. This is what we're going to look for CSAR. Here's Neo. This is what we're going to do, and then we'll either follow them out to like Fallon, or you go to AUTEC and you're doing their basically pre-deployment checks. Excuse me. You're going back over and reviewing stuff with them, and then reteaching things that, hey, this is what we saw that you could do better, or this is what we saw that you did was awesome, and we're going to take that back and implement it into the training because this was a good idea. Kudos back to the squadron, for coming up with something different, because when you're stuck, I hate to say stuck in the same rut, the WTU, it's refreshing when something new comes out, or you see something that hasn't been implemented or even thought of yet, and you're like, oh, that's a great idea. And you come back, sit down, round table it, and go, I think we should put this to the squadrons on the seawall and have them give us information whether they like it or not.
Do you have an example of that?
So long ago. I think it was one like carries, like one of the carries, when we were all stuck on everybody's got to do a fireman's carry this way. And then watched one of the squadrons. It was like two people got out always, but there was a third who got out because they were flying 4 crewmen. So they always had somebody in the aircraft, but there were 3 people would get out. So they were always doing like a different carry that was easier on the crewman. So you look at a little guy like me. I remember doing one of my first carries, and I'm going to carry some 250-pound guy with gear. And I'm like, I could do this, but they like to drop you way away from there. This survivor in here. I'm
like
dying.
The terrain is not.
And I'm dying trying to get back to the aircraft, and it's like, this is dumb. So it's like, hey,
think about like in SEALs, and they would do 5-mile underwater swims. Now they have devices that you can help get you there. It's like, what's the point of like just getting completely thrashed to get there where you're not 100% to operate?
Right.
It's the same as what you're talking about.
Yeah, basically it's thinking smarter, not harder. And that was one of the big things that you learn when you go to the WTU, because you're looking now at all these different squadrons having all these different ideas. You're going up to Fallon, who sees everybody, all the squadrons, so they're pulling in a bunch of different ideas. And hey, why don't you guys try starting to do this? And then that's when they started writing all the tactical instructions. Hey, here's how we want you to do it. That way everybody's on the same page. We took that information from the Air Force. We took it from the Marine Corps over in, MOTS 1, gunnery flying, different we're stuck in all these same, drive by gunnery, gun shoots. It's like, hey, how about you do this? This works better. I mean, always, have suppressive fire.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So were you flying out to the East Coast as well? Or were they coming to you, or how did that
So
work?
being at the WTU, you're in Jax.
Oh, okay. Were you flying out to the West Coast?
We did a couple of times out at the West Coast, but most of the time it's all out just to Fallon.
Oh, okay.
When I was there, and then, like I said, then we go down to AUTAC or go help out with doing this, that, or the other with the school.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty rewarding. Um, I don't know. It's not sure. Well, I guess it's shore base, but just duty station to be at.
It was busy though. It's like, so I was gone all the time. It's like shore duty, sea duty. Constantly just gone supporting another squadron.
Yeah. How long were you at the weapons training?
4 years.
Okay.
It's crazy. I had 2 4-year shore duty stints. So I picked up chief at the end of my first year there. So I basically stayed there another extra year.
Nice. Where'd you go from there?
So there I got orders to HSC 84. Well, it was HCS 4. And as the transition to HSC community had started in 06, 05, 06, I guess. This is around 09. I got orders up there. So I went to Norfolk.
Nice. What platform were you flying?
The hotel.
Still hotel. Okay.
Yeah. So that's all the squadron had at the time was hotels. And then
that's right. They bought all the hotels, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then they had one Foxtrot that we ended up giving to the Coast Guard.
Nice. Give them the Foxtrot. Wow. Okay. So how was 84?
So, as I'm sure you talked to a lot of, I know you talked to Logan Warner and Paul Picote, those guys. They've been in the squadrons for a long time, both HCS 5, HCS 4. So they had this, and they all were maintainers. So they all had to change over to the AW rate. It was kind of a sour time frame, for them. And so they didn't want. They had opened up the squadron to non-HCS people. So basically opened up to the fleet for certain people. So it was kind of a hard transition. Not for me per se, because I had the mentality that I needed to learn because these guys have been in Iraq since 03. So you have that. In my mind, they know what they're doing and what they're talking about because they've been there and done that. So I as a chief, I walked in there and I told them, hey, my name's Dave. I'm here to learn. And I think that broke down a barrier because some people went in there going, I'm in here, we're going to do whatever we want to do. You're going to listen to me, even though they'd never been in that squadron or been in that position. And I think that helped break down some barriers, knowing that I want to learn. I'm not above anyone here. Yeah. So once that,
what was the learning curve? Because before you deploy,
I've never. So you've heard that whole learning from a fire hose. That's basically what it was like. Is as soon as you get there, you're having to learn everything kind of over again. You're not a level coming from the WTU, level 4, or I'm a level 1 again. I'm back all the way back to the beginning. So I literally had to fly the entire syllabus like I was a brand new crewman, which was fine for me because they did things differently in each one. Where we did this for this as an HS guy, theirs is a whole lot more intense because you're about to go. Once you're getting done with some of the syllabus, you get at least level 2. You can deploy. It's not training anymore. it's real. You know, there's not somebody with blanks shooting at you. If somebody's shooting at you, they're trying to kill you.
Yeah.
So that's the intensity. That's what they brought intensity wise when they came to their training. It's like, this isn't, it's not, we're not a romper room. You know, this is big boy rules.
Yeah.
So it was good. We deployed in Nellis, for red flag. You know, we went to Atterbury for gun shoot. I traveled a lot of places I had never been. Being, you know, an HS and even being in WTU. So I was there probably a year in training, just, you know, before I even deployed. And I think a lot of that had to do with that mindset, you know, of learning. Plus, I wasn't a junior guy, and I learned from everybody. So I wasn't the senior. When I call the senior person on the bird was the second class to me, because he had the knowledge. So I think that helped out a lot too. Is breaking that barrier down was, that's fine. I got a second class teaching me. I want that information. I don't care, because it wasn't rate, and you know, I don't care. He wasn't a second class. That's so and so. That's, you know, John, and the pilots up front, you know, calling you by your first name, which I was not used to, because they wanted that crew mentality where you can talk freely in the bird. Once you left the aircraft, things went back to normal, but they wanted that crew cohesiveness, you know, where you could be told, you know, you could tell the pilot in the front to literally pull his head out of his butt. He's doing something wrong, and they're like listening. So, and that was different for me because, you know, coming from, I hate to call it the regular fleet, you couldn't say anything sometimes to some of those pilots because they just wouldn't listen to you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you had a mixed bag. That's good. That's so important, because every person in that aircraft they're critical no matter, you know, where you're at, but specifically when they're not blanks being shot at you. You know, you're going straight down range. So okay, so you deployed your first deployment. How was that? Or how many did you deploy?
So I call it 3.5.
Okay.
4 times I went over, but the last one was when we were pulling out of Iraq, and we went to Kuwait at the end of 2011. So my first deployment, we flew more that deployment that month, my first month I got there, than the dead had flown at any month prior. It was like every single day we were flying. Yeah. So first flight, we're doing a 4-shipper into a place for a direct action mission, DA, with SEALs and the Iraqi soft guys, a few of them, because they're trying to teach them how to do things so they can, you know, let them do things on their own. We land, drop off all the sticks. We get up, they're flying around, they're ordering. We're sitting back on a pad. I'm not sure exactly how far away, but the rotor's still spinning. We're just waiting for them to do what they're doing and call for pickup. Well, they got a tick call, a troops in contact call. So we took off. And at that time, they said somebody had been shot. So -3, and I'm on -4. So the last bird. So -3 is going to be the Kazakh bird or the medevac bird at the time. So they bring that guy in. Everybody else gets into the other aircraft, and they put 16 dudes in the back of our aircraft. Whoa. So in the hotel, at that particular one, we were flying with miniguns. So the cans are, you know, the whole 5,000 rounds. They're pretty big. And you're putting 5 dudes, almost all of them SEALs, in the back of this bird. My legs sticking out the side windows of this hotel. Well, not out, but they're up on the ledge of the window, and I'm holding the minigun out the window, eyes like this big, because this is my first ever flight into Iraq. We land, and I'm thinking I'm going to have to light somebody up. So we peel out, go drop the injured guy off in Baghdad, the cash, and go fly back. Drop off the team guys and fly back to Balad. Excuse me. And I'm like just buzzing how intense that was. And no one in any other squadrons that I ever taught at or did evals for or had been in I've never seen or been that intense. Nothing has been that intense like that first flight. So I'm like, this is real. This is real. And no one is, no one is up to this time has seen this except for these guys. And that's why learning from them at the time was so important to me. And and that was it. That showed me that's why they're so intense and how they train.
Yeah. How long did it take in country to kind of normalize?
So we got as per skipper's rules and whatnot, you'd go for 4 months at a time. So you'd go home or you go there for 4 months, go home for a little bit, and then redeploy for another 4 months. I would say probably it was my second time over where it was not as you're still like on alert, no matter what,
complacent,
right? Because you can't be,
right.
So yeah, I would say second deployment it was better for me. The first one was just being that it was my first time ever doing that. That whole debt was just like, I want to say stressful, but it was also learning. Because I was a second crewman. I'm flying I'm chief. I'm flying with second classes and first classes as a crew chief. But and pilots that have been doing this for forever, and I got an appreciation for that. Those squadrons. That I don't.
How often would you alternate roles? Because you have two gunners, crew chief. Did you have 3 or?
We fly 2 in the back. So two,
okay.
And then one of the birds would have the flight dog. So every other flight you would be like the crew chief or the gunner. So you swapped off, depending on. So I think that made it, one day you're the. See, that's just it though. That mindset though wasn't there. It wasn't you're the crew chief, you're the second crewman. It was you're just the crew. Okay. We're each other's gunners. So, and it was just what you were responsible for what side you were on. Because being that the hotel had only one door, certain things, you're in charge of the laptop and doing the video. Okay, on your side, you're in charge of the radio calls and setting up that. So your just responsibility was different each flight depending. But overall, you were the gunner in charge of your gun and your side of the aircraft to support the mission.
Yeah. What's a mission that stands out?
Besides that first one?
Oh yeah, of course.
There's a couple of different ones, you know what I mean? There's some that weren't even uneventful, but were scary. Like we flew out to Altheim, which is out in the middle of nowhere, and there's nothing in between it, and it's just desert. And having your pilot tell you he's got vertigo.
Oh gosh!
Yeah. And the second pilot, takes over. You fly out there, you brief just to cancel the flight, and then fly back. And the pilot's like, yeah, I think I'm all right. And he gets vertigo again. And it's just, that's scary because you literally, no moon, you can't see anything. And that is very stressful in itself. So that's one of one of those flights that sticks out of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. It's with the same crewman, and the pilots were different, but it was the same crewman that I had flown with before during that first flight with the Kazovac or medevac.
Hmm.
A lot, they're all intense to the point of you remember something of all of them. Little things like when you land in a schoolyard, you look out and there's a goalpost underneath your rotor arc that you didn't see, or a donkey in the fob. You go and land and the donkey's sitting right outside your rotor arc. You're like, where did that thing come from? I'm like, wow, but just things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I know there was an incident before I'd gotten there. It was like the transit, what is it? Capacitor, power line transistor or whatever exploded. And they thought it was, live fire coming in the aircraft or coming at the aircraft. There was never a dull moment because that's how on alert you are every flight. Mm-hmm. Even when you're flying circles during the middle of the day during FCF, you're still alert because the only thing between you and getting shot is air. You know what I mean? They don't care. If they want to shoot at you, they're going to shoot at you.
On FCFs in those areas, are you flying single crewman?
No, two. You always fly two because you got to run the box and the other crewman's looking out the door. Hmm. So you're doing racetrack around big circle around the base. So one crewman's running the gear as the other guy's out facing away outside the base.
Hmm. Okay. It's interesting. Okay. So did you retire out of 84?
No. So I left 84, I went to the Senior Enlisted Academy. And from there I came down here to Pensacola to the ASTC, the Survival Training Center, to run the Dunker, because we have crewmen, you have a chief role there. Mm-hmm. Well, I picked up Senior Chief, and the Senior Chief that it was at NIST, which is the Naval Survival Training Institute on the seawall. Everybody knows it as the Glass Palace. He went over to embodies, which is the controller of all these different, it's all BUMED. So I ended up being the SEL for all 8 Dunkers, getting there, literally 3 months after I got to Pensacola. So I stayed the SEL, did travel out to all the Dunkers and whatnot. And then, just did my 3 years and said, you know what? Is there anything else available? Call the detailer, and it's like, I could send you to HSC, 2 to the RAG. I'm like, well, by the time I get done with that, I can't deploy. I'm like, I have 2 years left in the Navy. At that time, it was about 2 years. And I was like, hey, so-and-so at SAR school is retiring. Can I go there? Save you money, save everybody money. And they're like, nope. And I'm like, you know what? Probably a good time. I'm just going to retire. So I put in my paperwork in 2015 and said, yep, I'm done. Called a buddy of mine and said, hey, man, you got any job openings? Like, yeah, sure. So I retired in January 2016, walked into my next job in February.
Nice. Are you still at that same job?
No, it was 9 years. No, I quit last year and got a job here and do contract work for the AWA school, reviewing curriculum that this company's putting up.
Okay.
Renewing all their curriculum because of all the different changes in the fleet and whatnot.
Yeah. So retirement, you kind of kept a foot in the door. And I think that can help because, a lot of times our identity is put into this job. Mm-hmm. It can be a real struggle, once that's done, it's like, okay, who am I? This is all I've known. It sounds like that's been very a healthy approach for you. Has there been struggles though, as far as you put in 24 years, and especially in the end, downrange, doing that stuff. Yeah, I guess. How
Yeah,
are you doing?
yeah, I'm good. So I do therapy. Yeah, it's a lot. It stems from either before the military, and a lot to do with the military. As
Hmm.
there's a lot of stress in the military, and in operation tempo in your brain feeds how your body reacts, right? So when the gears, you finally put it in sixth gear and you're cruising down the interstate, and you're like, oh wow, this is what being relaxed is. Your body's like, no, we're not relaxed yet. So there's a conflict in your body with your mind of it's okay to start slowing down.
Hmm.
And I think I didn't do well because the job I stepped into was I was UAS operator,
Hmm.
and I did that in Afghanistan for 6 years, and then went on the ship for the last three before I retired. Uh,
Okay.
it there was no that was intense in itself.
Hmm.
So my op tempo hasn't slowed down, but it started to slow down when I was on the ship, but it still was really high
Hmm.
um, in my mind. And this job has helped me to relax a lot more. But the transition from that high operations tempo, regardless of where you're working, to really you should be relaxed. That transition has been difficult. So I think I tell people and I encourage people to go to therapy. If
Hmm.
do it before you get out. Like right, if you know you're going to retire, do it before you get out. It's not going to hurt you. Nobody's getting hurt anymore. Remember, the old stigma is if you go to therapy, you can possibly lose your job.
Hmm.
Mindset to no, if you're not going to therapy, that is how you're going to lose your job is because you're not managing the things that you should be managing for yourself. And that's and people look past that because we're pleasers. You know what I mean? We want to get the job done. We're going to do it no matter what, but we forget about this what, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're willing to compromise. It's interesting because I call it chasing trauma because a lot of us came from traumatic environments. That's why we got into the job that we did. And
Yeah.
then if you look at the history, look at your resume, it's like the most traumatic stuff, and it's actually building, and it's
Mm.
we are comfortable in that because we have a sense of control, whereas maybe early on we didn't. So we
Yeah.
want to change the outcome. But at some point that stops, and it's not a healthy cycle, even if we're effective in those roles. I guess based on that, what's a I mean, therapy is great advice. I totally agree. I'm married to a therapist, and it's helped me extensively, specifically with just what I did in the military in a short stint, but then my mountaineering experiences and everything
Yeah.
else that I've survived. So I'm a big proponent of it. What's a bit of advice that you would give the listeners based on, I mean, you've been across the board and tons of traumatic things that you've encountered and come out on the other side.
Things that I would tell people or yeah, tell people, but inform people of is
Mhm.
one, self care is number one. Do things that you enjoy because that's going to help you with your self care. Because no one is can be happy for you unless you're happy for yourself and enjoy what you do. Even if it's the smallest thing, like I go down the end of the street. I literally live right on the intercoastal, down the end of the street. Is just go down there and go fishing, regardless if I catch anything or not. There's
Mhm.
nothing around me. It's just the water, the sand, and me just casting the pole out there, or finding hobbies, things that you enjoy. It's not things that you have to do. It's things that you enjoy to do,
Yeah.
and getting out and seeing things and trying to better yourself, in any way you can. And like I said, therapy has helped me in that case. It's opened up different, things that I had forgotten, and that way I could deal with it to help break down that that stressors, the stresses that you had over the years.
That's good. That nature therapy is huge.
Yeah.
Just getting outside, just walking across the street sometimes, just getting the fresh air and just feeling the earth. And
Go to state parks. You know what I mean? There's one down the street. There's, and for the most part, if depends on where you're at in your disability, it's free.
Mhm.
You know what I
Yep.
mean? I have state parks and federal parks that I go to that cards are free.
Yep.
You just have to go. You just have
Yeah,
to get out.
that's the hardest part, right? And
Get out and realize what you're missing is things that you missed the entire time you were probably, because you weren't thinking about it. You know what I mean? You didn't think, oh, I've got to be happy myself. A lot of people don't think that.
yeah, yeah. And we are all worthy of joy.
Yeah.
Just have to find it. Um, One thing with therapy where, I talked to a lot of different vets, they have a hard time finding the right therapist. I
Mm-hmm.
would say almost all of them will sabotage the relationship before it even starts. They
Yep.
haven't done what I've done. They haven't experienced this. It's unrelatable. I'm not going to have that trust. I'm not going to open up to this person who, just has never served or whatever else.
Yeah. So I got lucky. A friend of mine um, had started going to therapy and was like, hey, I'm going to this particular therapist. I really like her. I'm like, oh, really? What's her name? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, why? She's prior Navy.
Hmm.
So I'm like, okay. So I went, and I was like, the first day it was like, it's relatable. She knew what I'm talking about, but if you're talking about the ship, she knew what was going on. She knew that she knows the Navy lingo, she knows the stressors, and that's one of the reasons why she got into her job is because she saw it with her time in the military. It's like I can help. So I'm going to this one show, I guess like 2 years now, and it's you walk in there, it's like almost like talking to a friend, which sometimes in itself can be therapy. So if you have a friend group, that you all sit around and talk about things that you would need to get off your chest, and everybody is there to support you, that's great. But if you can find a therapist with prior military background, especially Navy, or if you're in the Air Force with an Air Force background, or anything, because they can relate to you as well as you can relate to them.
Yeah, I think that's so important. But yeah, a lot of it sometimes is luck. But I don't know. I think a difference that I see with you is you are willing. When you went into 84, you're willing to be the student.
Mhm.
You're able to humble yourself and say, I don't know everything, or I do need help.
Mhm.
And I think that can be the barrier for a lot of people. And it's I'd say it's their unwillingness, but it's just this hardened personality that they have from prior service.
Mhm.
And it's like you want help, but you don't want help.
Yeah.
You don't want to wallow in it, but you kind of do. Because I don't know, it's vulnerable and it's pain, but it is the path to a healthy, self. And it's so critical.
Yeah.
Well, man, I mean, great wisdom, great. Just thank you for what you've done, your service, what you're doing, and continue to do. I think there's a lot of value. I think this episode, there's a lot of tidbits of information and wisdom that if people are willing to listen and apply, they can get a lot out of this. So I definitely appreciate you and having you on, Dave.
I appreciate you doing this. For what you do across the board is amazing, because a lot of people, I think, don't want to talk. They don't want to, like you said, they don't want to show that vulnerability. Well, you know what? There's strength in it.
Yeah.
There
Yep.
really is.
I get it. I'm guilty.
Yeah.
And it's taken me a lot of to recognize, and being married to a therapist, to be like, hey, why don't you give that person a chance? Like, why would I give them a chance? They didn't do what they haven't
Yeah.
soloed down Everest and come down blind or whatever. Like, yeah, no one has. So if you're going to get help, you're going to, you have to put that stuff aside and, find, have the friend, have the professional on that other side, and don't make them fail.
Well,
Like,
I tell people is don't forget about your spouse, because they don't know, they don't understand. And if you're not open and honest with where you're at, they're not going to know. They're not going to understand when you do have issues.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's a whole nother conversation, because
Right?
yeah, you create that isolation, and then you create this, crevasse. It starts with a fissure, and then just that relationship, or any relationship you have, if you don't have trust, you don't have that openness.
Yeah.
All right, great advice. Well, Dave, thanks so much.
Thanks, Brian.
Yep, and for everyone else, thanks for joining, and we will see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Calm in the Chaos podcast. Please subscribe to be notified of future episodes, and if you enjoyed what you just heard, please leave a 5-star review on whatever platform you listen to podcasts. Until next time, get out there and make a difference so others may live.